Hello everyone, I'm Nnamdi Odipo. We're live in Abuja and this is the Ballot. Thanks for joining us tonight. It's good to have you here. It does look like the rains are here, and so we're having a cooler night. Very much anticipating a needed respite, I should say. Well, tonight, Bauchi is in focus. And we will be getting some answers from the APC governorship candidate in that state, of course, and some clarifications on some issues as well. My guest is seated and waiting. I'm eager to press him for some explanations, like I said, on some plans he has outlined for the people of the state. And so we'll be joining him presently. But before we do that, let's bring you some major news highlights for tonight.
No godfather can lay claim to victory until
for election saboteur promises each on March 18th.
By the time he resigned, he's more or less, even though he's not dead, but politically he is not alive to us.
Defect of your own Peru. Recent court judgment reinforces constitutional provisions on defection by lawmakers in Nigeria. Appellate Court reserves judgment on Osun governorship appeal. Well then, in a bid to promote and enhance the credibility of the electoral process, the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, is promising to close all lapses experienced in the February 25 presidential and National Assembly elections ahead of this Saturday's governorship and State Houses of Assembly elections. INEC is also stomping for punitive measures against election saboteurs and whoever is found to have compromised the process, insisting it will sanction all culprits directly or deliberately responsible for glitches experienced during the last election.
people losing their bases, people who are supposed to be institutions suddenly losing. You know, it's a testament to the fact that we are having a new electoral process where nobody, no godfather can lay claim to victory until the results are counted.
If you're one of the brand new senator-elect or member-elect awaiting the formal inauguration of the upcoming 10th National Assembly, and you're watching me right now, then know this and no peace. There is little you can do to retain your distinguished seat in the National Assembly if and when you choose to defect from your party. I figure the word now is defect from your party and lose your seat, or defect from your party and lose your ticket. Apparently, this clearly defined constitutional provision, yet glaringly ignored, is no longer mere rhetoric, going by recent developments involving some politicians which shaped, I beg your pardon, the outcome of some National Assembly seats. I'm sure the Shakarau, Dogowa, and the Sokoto INEC Rex saga comes to mind.
And written to the party that we have withdrawn from this contest. I've also resigned from the party. And these letters also were copied to the INEC. Now, ordinarily, by the time he resigned, he's more or less, even though he's not dead, but politically he is not alive to us. So in that case, the party should substitute him because we cannot leave that vacancy empty.
Currently, the 1999 Constitution only frowns at defection of lawmakers at the State Houses of Assembly and the National Assembly. The 9th National Assembly in 2002 shut down a bill which would have compelled any elected political officer to vacate his seat for defecting to another political party. Let's see what the 10th National Assembly does in this regard if the bill resurfaces for consideration. The Court of Appeal sitting in Abuja earlier today reserved judgment on the Osun State governorship appeal filed by Governor Ademola Adeleke against a judgment of the Election Petition Tribunal which invalidated his election. A judgment on the matter will be given at a later date as the three-member panel of justices led by Justice Mohammed Shuaibu takes the argument and adopts the brief of all parties in the suit.
We've concluded it, we've barred our arguments, and we're waiting for the judgment.
All the appeals, including the cross appeals, have been heard, and we're all in court when the court adjourned the matter to a date to be communicated to all of us. For judgment.
Because of Section 62 of the Electoral Act that authorizes INEC to update the data from time to time. If you get a citizen from INEC, you need to go back and confirm whether there has been any change before you run to tribunal.
Well, to the business of the night, my first guest is a politician with a huge military service record. A three-star general, in fact. He is retired Marshal in the Nigerian Air Force and former chief of the Air Staff. Let me welcome the governorship candidate of the All Progressives Congress in Bauchi State, Air Marshal Sadiq Baba Abubakar. He joins me tonight from our studio in Bauchi. Welcome to the Ballot, sir. I'm glad you could join us.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm most excited to be here.
I'd like to apologize for the miscommunication we had last time that made you actually come into our studios and we were unable to take you the other day. I'm glad you're here. And so I'll just get right into it. And I will adopt the military style of doing business and get into your manifesto. You christened it Bauchi Economic Development for Social Transformation. It paints a picture of an idyllic Bauchi state. I look at these promises that you make in your blueprints and I agree that they are ideal. But in terms of realism, are there manifestable possibilities likely to emerge from pre-existing certainties in Bauchi State? Can you perhaps give me one or two examples of your plan, of this plan and how they could easily manifest if you were to draw from your manifesto?
Okay, thank you very much for having me here. Like I said earlier, yes, looking at the manifesto, I emphasize on the need to address the problems of the terrible educational sector we are having. These are things that you can actually address. I was in 1 or 2 primary schools last week inside Bauchi town here, and I discovered that there are no seats in the classrooms. That is strange for somebody coming from the military, somebody coming from the Air Force, where we have schools that are really doing very well. So I was shocked when I got to one of the schools and I discovered that there were no seats and children were sitting on the floor. These are issues that you don't need to be actually told that you can really clearly handle these issues. Right now, no surprise, you have 29.9% attendance in our schools, 1.4 million out of school children, and the infrastructure is in a very deplorable state. There are no teachers. Those that are there are not paid salary. Those that are there are not trained. So this is totally unacceptable, and these are things that you can really address. And that is only in the educational.
Yes. Please go ahead.
There's issues there. Yes, we have the highest infant mortality rate in Nigeria. We have the highest under 5 mortality rate. We have the highest, all the figures are very terrible figures. We are losing about 1,549 women for every 100,000 births. These are issues that a responsive leadership should be able to really address.
So I see you've highlighted education, you've highlighted health. But then I recall a memoir of someone actually referencing your days as an Air Force commander way back in Rivers State. Then, of course, you did rise to become the Chief of Air Staff of the Air Staff between 2015 and 2021. Between fighting militancy in the creeks and insurgents in the northeast and northwest, how much of that experience would factor in your safety and security plan for Bauchi State?
Okay, like I have observed a number of times, you know, security and development are two sides of the same coin. And what I have seen in the Air Force is fighting the consequences of neglect in areas of development, especially at the state and local government levels. So my experience in the service also shows me that if you take care of human beings, I think they are going to go out to do what you want them to do because they feel they have a stake in the process. But if you don't care about the needs of the people, the likelihood for them to be mobilized for violence is always there. For Bauchi State, for instance, we have about 65 to 70% of the population are youths. And unfortunately, there is no structure on ground to provide for the needs of these youths. They are not given scholarships. They are not given even NECO, just to pay for NECO fees. My foundation had to pay for about 409 students recently. So people are beginning to see that they don't have stake in the process, and that is going to create insecurity. So what we want to do is to redefine the relationship between government, those in position of leadership, and those being led, so that they will understand that actually government is all about human beings. We must provide for...
Okay, we seem to be having some, but of course it's the delay from the transitions, but I want to hope that you can hear me clearly. I can hear you clearly from here. I'm hoping you can as well. And I'd like us to remain on this whole issue of security. I'm sure you're aware of reports indicating that Bauchi State did experience an increase in kidnapping, banditry, rape, and even cattle rustling somewhere, especially somewhere around the Fagori forest at the border with Kano State. There were also reports some time ago of security incidents resulting in casualties, including clashes between armed groups and vigilantes in some parts. You yourself were just a couple of days ago involved in some incidents during your campaign. In the not so distant past, I read about attacks by unidentified gunmen and armed clashes between herders and farmers. This security plan that you've just alluded to just some seconds ago, how exactly does it provide stopgap measures and rollback initiatives to stop this level of criminalities in their track?
You see, the major problem, like I said, is this relationship between security and development. If the people feel that they do not have a stake in the process, like I said, chances are that they can be easily mobilized for violence. You have a situation where you have 1.4 million out of school children. You have a situation where you have 29.9% attendance. You have a situation where the infrastructure in schools has collapsed. Even in Bauchi, the state capital, children are sitting on the floor. You have a situation where workers are not paid salary for months. You have a situation where pensioners are not paid. You have a situation where people are not paid gratuity. You have a situation where the health institution has completely collapsed. People have to buy diesel for them to go into.
To address the educational challenge in Bauchi State, perhaps when you pay salaries as and when due, perhaps when you create more job employment for young persons, it is your belief that crimes and criminality will disappear from Bauchi State. Is that what you're trying to say?
I don't want to say it will disappear, but what I'm trying to say is there's a very strong relationship between development and security. Security.
I get you, sir, and I get you clearly, but I need you to confirm that that is exactly the approach that you intend to deploy.
I will certainly look at the educational sector. I'll look at the schools and make sure that those 1.4 out of school children are back to school. We will look at the issue of the health sector, where 1,549 women are dying for every 100,000 births. We'll look at the issue of salaries, payment of salaries. Right now, contractors are handling payment of salaries, so nobody is really keeping an eye on what is going on. So these are the fundamental issues, and unless you address those issues, the people will not have a sense of belonging. And once they don't have a sense of belonging, chances are that they are not going to cooperate, you know. And some of them will pick rifles. Some of them will go into criminality. These are the fundamental issues that unfortunately the PDP government has failed to address for more than for about 3 years now.
And I appreciate the linkage that you've created there, the nexus between crimes and development, and how your approach. But earlier on I was listening to you, and you mentioned how you intend to re-engineer the political landscape. So when you say you plan to re-engineer this political landscape in Bauchi State so that people would have a sense of belonging, a sense of ownership of the state, does that imply creating an environment that also fosters inclusivity, whether it is for residents, whether they are indigenous or non-indigenous? Does it also mean that you will create a society that treats the have-nots as good as it treats the haves? Does it include giving the vulnerable persons, perhaps people living with disability and others challenged by circumstances created by society, a sense that they own not just a portion of Bauchi State, but the entire Bauchi State? I mean, I know this sounds idyllic, like, the ideal society, but as governor, can you make that happen in 4 years? Also, I mean, because this kind of society that your blueprint talks about has eluded us as a country nationally for more than 6 decades.
See, exactly, you have highlighted some of the issues. But what I want to say is that for people to really be part of a process, they must understand that they have a stake. They must understand that they have a stake. I'm not saying that I'm going to establish a utopian empire in Bauchi State. But what I'm saying is that you must give the people a sense of belonging. For instance, how can you be a leader in a state capital where children are sitting on the floor? It doesn't make sense. What are you leading? Who are you leading? At least at the state capital, I'm talking of inside Bauchi town itself. You have children sitting on the floor to take lessons. I went there physically. This is not hearsay. And so what will you think is, what do you think is happening in the local governments? Where even in the state capital, children are sitting on the floor. And I'm not talking of one primary school or two primary, almost so many primary schools inside Bauchi town. And we have leaders. Okay? And how do you have a situation where you cannot provide the most basic needs of human beings? Any society that ignores education cannot actually aspire to become developed at all. Education is the bedrock of every society. But you have a situation where you have 1.4 million out of school children. You have a situation where only 29.9% of the children are attending schools. For the last 3 years, since this PDP government came in, it has been like that. And you have a situation where the maternal mortality rate is the highest in Nigeria. You have a situation where the infant mortality rate is the highest in Nigeria. You have a situation where the under 5 mortality rate is one of the highest in Nigeria. So these are the fundamental issues. Address them, at least give some hope to our people. Let them see that government is all about them. Then you begin to see them cooperate with you, because they now know that they have a stake in the process.
And I hear you, and you've mentioned these negative indices time and again. You've mentioned the number of out-of-school children. You've mentioned the childbirth, the mortality rate, maternal mortality rate, and all of that. Give me a sense in redressing some of these negative indices that you've mentioned. Give me an idea, a sense of where you want to, of course, in redressing these situations. Where would you want to? What's the ratio of success that you're looking at in terms of accomplishment, perhaps in the next, if given the opportunity, in the next 4 years? Where would you like to take it to? Perhaps would you want to reduce the level of infant mortality to perhaps maybe like 10% or 5%? Would you want to take education in Bauchi State to 100%? Just give us a sense of where that is likely to get to in 4 years if you're given the opportunity.
Well, the fact is that what I have, I know that the situation might even be worse than what I'm saying, but I believe that these are things that can be addressed. Getting schools to function properly, employing teachers, getting hospitals to really be functional. These are issues that you can address. They don't really require something. And gradually over the years, we are going to have a clearer picture of what the situation is like. It might even be worse than this figure that I'm giving you.
Marshal, please, we're fast losing time. I'd like to take you to the very last segment of our program, if you don't mind. Sorry, I know I'm butting in, and it will seem like I'm rushing you. But very quickly, I'd like to take you to the very last segment of our program. It's called Ticking the Boxes. I'll ask the director to just put the box on the screen there for you to see. These are mostly public policy issues that we've gleaned from some Vox Pop that we've done in Bauchi State. We would like for you to just look at the board. If the director will just put that on the board, there will be 4 items on the board. You will be given 3 options to choose from. All of these options you gauge within the timeline of 4 years. The first item on the board there says 50% IGR boost. Do you think this is a target you can achieve in Bauchi State in the next 4 years if given the opportunity to serve the people as governor? Do you think this is a realistic target? Do you think it's unrealistic? Are you undecided on the matter?
For the internally generated revenue, I think we can generate more than what we are certainly generating now, because revenue generation, actually, there are so many things that are associated with revenue generation. If you want to boost revenue generation, once you have to have the confidence of the people must understand that, you are getting this money, you are using it for their own benefit. On their own,
I need to take you along real quick. We'll go to second item number 2. For the first one, you've ticked realistic. The second one says portable public water sufficiency. And we're talking about statewide now, and not just within the metropolis of Bauchi. We're saying rural communities as well. Do you think you can achieve portable water supply sufficiency for the whole of Bauchi State within 4 years? Is that a realistic target? Is that unrealistic? Are you undecided on the matter?
I don't have all the facts with regards to sufficiency of potable public water supply, but I know even in Bauchi here, there are serious issues.
Number 3, 80% reduction in maternal death. You've alluded to that already, but do you think 80% is a target that you can achieve in 4 years?
Certainly we can achieve 80%. Why not?
It is. Very quickly, this is something else you've talked about, creating jobs for young people. This is saying 45% job creation. Is that something you can achieve in 4 years?
Realistic, very
I am so sorry that we've had to rush you. We're fast losing time here. I'd like to thank you so much for coming on the program. Governorship candidate of the All Progressives Congress for Bauchi State, Sadiq Baba Abubakar. It's been a pleasure having you on the program. I do wish you best of luck in your campaign, and I hope that after the elections come March 18, we will come here and review the process. Thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you.
More days and the curtain will rise on the governorship and state houses of assembly elections in all 28 participating states across the country. Let's keep counting down to the D-Day on the ballot. Campaigns, of course, will end midnight Thursday. I'll see you again tomorrow night, God willing. Until then, I'm Nnamdi Odikpo. See you. Bye for now.